Hello everybody! In this tutorial we're going to be taking a closer look at the new Corona VFB that got introduced in Corona 12. Now the general user experience stays pretty much exactly the same, okay? So your post settings are still available under the post menu. The way that the operators here work is exactly the same as they did before. Same goes for the stats menu, the history menu, the LightMix menu, although there are new features that we've introduced, but we're gonna talk about them later. But the general user experience here is gonna stay the same. So you can still cycle through your passes by going through the pass list here. You can still zoom in or zoom out of your image, right? And you have all these helper buttons at the top here, just like you did with the previous VFB rendition. Now, one thing that you've probably noticed already is the fact that the actual design of the VFB changed quite considerably. And so the new VFB looks more modern, it has new design elements, and overall all the buttons and UI elements have less contrast so that the VFB doesn't get in your way, visually speaking. Now, this new VFB is still a bit of an ongoing project for us. We're actively listening to your feedback, and there's still things that we want to do to it to improve it, okay? With Corona 12, what we wanted to do is we wanted to start this new project, and this new VFB is created in the Qt framework, which should mean that it is more performant for you as an end user, and it also means that it is a little bit easier for us to add new features to it. So that's good news, right? And then with Corona 12, what we also wanted to do is we wanted to start this new design sort of framework for the VFB. And, we also wanted to add as many new features as we could in our release cycle. So bottom line, we still want to improve this new VFB. This is not the final version we have in mind just yet. We still want to improve the user experience. We want to improve the design, and we want to add new features, obviously. And so if you have any suggestions of your own, please let us know, as always, right? Right, okay, and so with the general user experience of the new VFB being pretty much the same, how about we take a look at what some of the new features are? Okay, that's what we're going to be doing next here. Now, one of my personal favorites is definitely the ability that you now have to have multiple different LightMix setups in your VFB, and also the ability to seamlessly and easily switch between them. So let's take a look at how all of this works. So right now, as you can see right here, we have the single LightMix setup. It's called the LightMix day setup, right? But now let's say, for example, we wanted to create a nighttime setup here as well. So we're just gonna stop the rendering process, okay? And we're gonna bring in another LightMix pass in here, okay? We're gonna call it the LightMix night pass, and then we're just gonna start the rendering process up again, right? Now we're gonna fast forward through this part just because this is a pretty heavy scene, it takes a second or two to parse. But once that is done, well, what you can now do is you can, for example, you can start playing with your LightMix day setup here. You can increase the sun's intensity or decrease it or whatever, right? But then what if you wanted to set up a nighttime sort of a lighting scenario, right? Well, now what you can do is you can just expand your pass list here and select the LightMix night pass. Now, if you, for example, disable the sky and the sun, so that you create a bit of a nighttime scenario, and say you now are happy with how this looks like, but you want to see the scene in daylight again, well, you can just switch back to the LightMix day pass, and as you can see, all of your LightMix light settings are going to update for this specific pass. And so this makes it really easy to work with different LightMix setups because you can easily switch between them. You don't have to save any of these setups out to an external file. You can just seamlessly switch between the passes, and the LightMix settings are going to update accordingly. Okay, now another cool thing that we've added here is a new operator, and by popular demand, this is the lift gamma gain operator. So you can add this thing anywhere in the stack, okay, depends on what you're trying to do, but with it you basically have control over your lift, gamma, and gain parts of the image. So if you play with the lift, this is basically like you're controlling the shadowy parts in your image. You can play with the gamma, which controls sort of the middle tones in your image, okay? And then with the gain, you can control essentially the highlights. Okay, so this works the same as it does in, for example, other software like DaVinci Resolve. And so it's just a pretty cool, neat operator that we've added here to make your post-production a little bit easier. Now, a little drum roll, please. We've also, by popular demand, added the ability to dock the Corona VFB anywhere in C4D's UI. And it all works exactly as you would expect it to. You have this hamburger icon here, and you can just, by clicking and dragging it, you can just dock the VFB anywhere in the UI you'd like to, right? And it's that simple and that easy to work with. Now, what's also really simple and really easy to do is comparing renders that have different resolutions. Okay, so in the history list here, as you can see, we saved out a render that was in full HD, so 1920 by 1080, right? And now we currently have the interactive renderer running, and we have this low resolution render going on, right? And we can now just simply A and B compare between the two, and it's that simple and that easy. What we can also do here is just to demo that this indeed works, we can make this render even smaller. And now, as you can see, we can still compare between the two, right? And that's not all. We've also added the ability to compare images with different aspect ratios in the history list. And so this, as you can imagine, is pretty straightforward to set up. Right now we're rendering a vertical image, but in the VFB we have saved a horizontal image. So we basically just inverted the width and height on our image aspect ratio. And we're going to try and do an A and B compare here. And as you can see, it will work. Previously it didn't, but now, as you can see, it works just fine. So this can help you whenever you're setting up your vertical or horizontal images and you still want to compare between them. Okay, now there's another cool thing that the new Corona VFB allows you to do, and that is it allows you to use it basically as you did the Corona image editor. So check this out. We're going to go under the history menu here, and we're going to load up a CXR of a saved render we did earlier. Okay, you can see it's going to show up in the history list here, and we're just going to click this pencil button, which is going to make the render appear in the VFB, and it's also going to make it editable. We can now go under the post menu here, and we can start editing it, right? Just like you would any other render, right? Now you can also go and check out the different LightMix setups that are in the actual CXR file, and you can easily switch between them, right? And you can make further adjustments to them, right? So all that is now possible to do from right inside the Corona VFB. And when you're ready to save out the updated image, once you're done making changes to it, so let's just say we kind of played with the settings a little bit here, we changed some of the tone mapping parameters, we can just go under history here and we can click this little save icon and just save the file anywhere we'd like to. Do note that at this very moment of the time of recording this video, this tutorial, you cannot save the image, the updated image, using this save button here, but this will be updated in the future. And now, if you are into saving every little bit of performance that you can, we also have implemented a neat feature that's basically just a checkbox with which you can delay the bloom and glare calculations. So if you're interested in doing that, all you have to do is you need to turn bloom and glare on, obviously, and then you can hit this compute after render checkbox, and now the bloom and glare is only going to get computed once the render is done rendering, which can save you a bit of performance, especially if you're dealing with high resolution imagery. Now, as a bit of a note, even if you have this checkbox checked to on, if you change any of the tone mapping operators or change anything in the image that would require recalculating bloom and glare, it will still recalculate to give you an updated calculation. It's just that with this checkbox checked on, it won't update every couple of passes. Now, in case you're mid-project or maybe you're not quite as used to the new VFB yet, you can switch back to the old one, and we're going to show you how you can do that in the next couple of seconds. So it's all real easy. Just go under the edit menu here, preferences, okay, and then go under renderer, Corona, and in here what you can do is under VFB version settings here, you can just switch to the old one. Now you will have to restart Cinema 4D, but once you do that, you're going to be greeted by the old VFB version. All right, and that pretty much wraps up this tutorial. We hope you've enjoyed it. We hope you've learned something new, and we do hope that you like the new VFB. Remember, it's a bit of an ongoing project for us, so we're going to be happy to hear any and all feedback that you have. But yeah, that's a wrap for this tutorial. Thank you for tuning in, and we'll see you in the next one.